Money might be the most important thing for many people. So, how would you feel if you moved to another world and got the chance to receive money, where the more you lose, the more you gain? And like every video, don't forget to like and get this clip to 200,000 likes, and subscribe to the channel if this is your first time here. We begin with a simple young man who is clearly in a hurry to get to work before getting fired, and that's because his manager constantly harasses the employees. He reaches the metro whose doors were closing, but with maximum speed, he slips in just before they shut. He arrives at work at the last second. He sits at work thinking about what to have for lunch today. He browses all the restaurants to find the best discounts, the story of my life in brief. After lunch, he plays a bit on the computer but quickly changes the screen as soon as he feels the manager approaching him. He's not slacking off. The manager is literally on top of him. He works a bit and plays a bit, and the manager tries to catch him red-handed, but can't. Right at 6 o'clock, he prepares his bag to leave, but the manager says to him, "Wait for the project results." He says the results are due in a week. The manager says, "No, I want them today." He says the official deadline is in a week. The manager says if you don't submit it, you're fired. He says, "Try to do it, and I'll file a lawsuit against you." All of these are imaginations, of course, because when the manager told him he wanted the results, he stayed up all night like a dog to finish them. He finishes his work lonely and sad. Then a message comes to him from his friend. A message containing a link to a website that tells him his future luck. Suddenly, the phone falls from his hand. He grabs it, but he hears a voice saying, "Activating the lucky system." The phone lights up, and cards come out of it that get sucked back in. He wakes up and finds himself on the bed, with his friend in front of him named Yang, who says, "Come on, hurry up so we can catch the lecture." He looks around and finds himself in college. Did I go back in time, or what? He remembers when he was in college and a doctor told them, attendance isn't important, the important thing is that you benefit. And at the end of the year, everyone who missed his lectures failed. He thinks of a way to return to the future, but says, "And why should I go back? I can improve myself so I don't return to the miserable future I was living in." Suddenly the place freezes and a system appears before him saying, "My name is Richie. I chose you from among all people and will help you become rich. Take these $10,000 to start your life." He thinks, with this money, I can buy everything I want. Richie says, "You will receive money from me with each stage, on the condition that you use it to manage the company. But the more the company loses, the more your personal profits will increase." He says, "How sweet is this? Finally, I can fail with a clear conscience." And Richie says, "Now you must start registering your company." He sits thinking, what field should I start a company in? He remembers how much time he wasted on games, and how many games he saw fail before him. Richie says to him, "Be careful you cannot tell anyone about the system or how you got the money, otherwise punishment will befall you. You have 14 days to bring out all the failure within you." He says to himself, "How can I make a game in 14 days? Yang enters the room and he asks him, "Do you have an idea how to make a game as fast as possible?" He says, "Yes, of course. There's an online platform that makes games easily, and you don't need to learn programming." He enters the platform and finds it's not strong. Most games made on it failed, and that's what is required. He uses the platform and pays $20,000 for a car simulator, and $15,000 for game backgrounds. Sure, car game. And to make it boring, he spends the remaining $15,000 to make it a car racing game. But one game takes 8 hours to finish. There's nothing more failing than this. The game's name will be Desert Road, and to increase the failure, he sets the game's price at $1. Surely he won't find 50,000 people to buy a failing game like this. He publishes the game, and thankfully the first day passed, and achieved the required failure. He remembers his past. As soon as he got employed, he spent all his money on buying games, but he couldn't play them because the manager treated him like a dog and made him work more than 24 hours a day. But now, after what happened, everything will change. At this time, we see a content creator and YouTuber named Shaw, whose channel specializes in reviewing failing games, and the channel is as failing as the content it provides. By chance, he finds the game and decides to play it. Strangely and suspiciously, he continues playing the game, a game with no goal. He keeps driving the car in the desert. Not only that, the game doesn't save. If you try to quit, the car resets from the beginning. All the elements of failure are present in it, and that created a challenge for Shaw. He spends hours playing, but of course, he can't continue for 8 hours. And every time he fails, he continues more. And indeed, he succeeds in finishing the game, and then a message appears for him. Congratulations. You wasted 8 hours of your life for no benefit. A very real message, and that angered Shaw. He is in class and sees Richie, who tells him, "Our next meeting is in 11 days, he thinks. So in 11 days, I'll be a millionaire. But he hears students in class talking about a card game. So he quickly rushes home and is surprised that the game has become famous. Shaw made a review on his channel and advised people not to buy the game because it's the most boring game he's seen in his life. But people wanted to know what this boring game looked like, so they did the opposite of what he said and bought the game. He changes the game's description to encourage those who bought it to return the game and get their money back. But this description made him seem generous among the players, and the number of buyers increases. Even his friend Yang bought the game and says, "How are people impressed by this game? It's very boring and has no goal." But he was thinking about the money he would lose due to his failure to create a failing game. We go to the manager of one of the biggest game companies in the world. His assistant talks to him about the game Desert Road and how famous it has become among players, but it's only $1 and won't achieve the required profit. He says to her, "I'm not interested in profits. The most important thing for me is controlling the game industry, and you are a stupid assistant because you don't look ahead." And he rejects the company's offer. He becomes desperate and sad and searches online for a way to lose money, but of course, he doesn't find one. We reach day 14. The game managed to achieve sales of $700,000, more than the $200,000 he received by $500,000, so he only gains $700. But Richie says to him, "Congratulations, you managed to create a successful game." He says, "Congratulations for what? I failed." Richie says, "Don't worry, you still have a second chance. We'll start the second round, and you'll get $300,000, and you have 30 days under the same conditions as the first round." He thinks, what project can I spend $300,000 on that must also fail? He returns home depressed. Yang says to him, "Come on, let's play together." He agrees and wastes some time with them, and he writes that Yang is very failing at games, the most noob person in games, and that's a good idea. They go fishing the next day, and he says to him, I want you to design a game for me, Yang." He says, "I have no experience, and if I help you, the game will fail. That's what we want, son." "We want to fail," he says. "I have $300,000 because I designed the game Desert Road." Yang is amazed. "How are you so great? How could you create such a successful game?" "Okay, I'll help you and I'll read all the books to design the best game," he says to him. "No, stay failing as you are." But Yang beats programming books and starts studying them. He says to him, "We don't need all of that. Did you forget we have that game design website you told me about?" He thinks about the next game. He can't make it a car game because surely after the success of the previous car game, people will buy the new car game as soon as it's released. Richie appears before him and says, "Stop, thief. If you execute your idea, you will be punished." He finds many card games, but they are all failing. There are only 2 or 3 games that dominate the market, including Yu-Gi-Oh, of course. So he says, "Okay, I'll make a card game and make it similar to a famous game so that when people download it, they find it similar to the famous one and go to the original." He says to Yang, "I'll look for an artist to make the most miserable and lowly drawings and cards possible. And I'll give you a task. Suggest the cards. Make me a list with the names and abilities of each card, and you'll get $3,000 from me every..." He's also the owner of one of the biggest card games, but the game was losing players because obtaining new cards was very difficult. His new assistant, after he rejected the old one, says to him, "I heard that he wants to make a card game. How can someone make card games knowing they are failing?" He says, "You mean card games are failing? You don't know that I designed the idea card game? You're calling me a failure? You're fired. Former assistant." Yang suggests to him that he turn the cards into girls. He says, "No, we won't do that. If I do that, the game might succeed because the audience likes pictures of girls. Look, we can turn the cards into demons and monsters." And he also looked for an artist online, a beginner artist specialized in drawing cartoonish and childish pictures, who has nothing to do with drawing cards. And that's what has required the two talk to the artist, whose name is Jin, in a video call, explaining the game to him and requesting drawings for 50 characters. "We've seen your drawings and believe you will achieve the purpose we want." He says to them, "My price is expensive. You'll pay $2,000 for each drawing," meaning $100,000 for the 50 drawings. Yang says to him, "Why do you see yourself as Picasso?" And he says, $2,000 only. "Okay, I agree. Anything for the game to succeed." He thinks, "I'll make them pay $3,500 for each drawing." Richie appears and says, "Raising the price without reason is a violation of the law." So he takes back his words and says, "If the drawings amaze me, I'll raise the price. But for now, we'll set the price at $2,000, and you have 2 weeks to finish the required drawings." He thinks about how to make the game fail. Most card games cost $5, so he'll set it at $10. Surely they won't leave the famous $5 game and buy the new $10 game, right? And whoever buys the game will get all the cards they want. So the problem of obtaining cards being difficult won't be a problem basically, and the player won't benefit from playing since they have all the cards in the game. There's no competition or goal to continue. He goes online and finds a card game that failed to spread and is selling its design. This is the design for a failing game? That's what At this time, Jin and his team are trying to think about the shapes of the drawings, but the team is wondering who the donkey is who suggested these cards. They mean Yang, but since he paid the full amount in advance, they pour out all their creative energy. They imagine creative drawings they've seen in different movies and anime and start designing them. They finish the project before the deadline, and Yang tells him, the guy finished the drawings. He says, okay, put them in the game and upload them online. I'm going to sleep. He says, you're going to sleep? What should we name the game? He says, anything? Name it Mirage Leader. He wakes up and is surprised by the drawings that were done. The drawings are strangely excellent. I chose Jin because he's a failing designer, but there's still hope. Maybe the game's design was excellent, but it was boring and failed quickly. At the end of the day, Yang tells him 100 people bought the game and all gave very bad reviews. This is a boring game. This is the worst card game I've seen in my life. He rejoices. Finally, I succeeded in being a failure after 2 days. Yang was playing Desert Road, a masochistic person who loves to torture himself, and Jin calls him and asks if the designs please them. He says, yes, of course the designs were excellent. But Jin and his friends see that the game's performance is not good, and the number of downloads is very low, perhaps because there are no advertising campaigns. Jin tries the game and finds it amazing in its designs. Of course, since I designed them, they are amazing. But he notices something strange. He says to Yang, why is there only one item in the store? Shouldn't we add more items to encourage players to continue in the game? Yang says to him, unfortunately, we won't add any. He is a kind and generous person who wants the players to get all the cards without paying for anything. Jin says to him, how good you people are. You paid me a lot of money for the design and also want the players to be happy without spending much. People like you must increase. Jin gathers with his friends and says, we must make this game succeed. And he was happy that the game had finally failed, and he'd spent a lot of money. Yang enters and tells him, we succeeded, our game succeeded. He enters the game and is surprised by hundreds of positive reviews. Everyone is impressed with the designs. He calls Jin and asks what happened. Jin, in reality, called his other friends and told them about the game and its kind owner, who doesn't want to cost the players extra expenses, and his friends started promoting the game and rating it, which helped it spread more, so he falls into a depression. Why do I fail at being a failure? He is with his new assistant number 3. The assistant says to him that the game Mirage Leader is sweeping all card games and has achieved massive success. He says, it succeeded despite the negative reviews I gave it. He hires people to go in and give negative reviews to the game because the 2 games made by him were similar to games made by him, and all he could think was that surely he wants to destroy him at this time. He was calling Google Play and telling them he wants to delete the game. They ask him why, sir. He says because it's successful. Richie appears and says, stop, scammer. You are violating the law. And ends the call for him. Richie appears after 30 days and says, congratulations, your game achieved $500,000, much more than the $300,000 you took. Therefore, you will gain $5,000 and we will begin the 3rd task, a task that will last for a full 90 days, but you will not receive the $500,000 you earned from the game. You will invest in a new game, and any money you receive from the game Mirage Leader, you will invest in the new game. He says to his assistant at the new game company, the company has caught my attention. I'm thinking of buying it. And he, who was watching a football match, it's a call from Yang saying, there's a man named Lee who is interested in your company and wants to buy it. He barely thinks about selling it, but Richie says it's forbidden. You will violate the law. Yang says, how can you refuse? He's offering $10 million to buy the company. He says, don't make me feel guilty. I can't sell the company. So he pressures him to invest in his company, and he says, even that basically doesn't work. He wants to spend the money he has. He doesn't want more money. Lee gets angry and says he doesn't want to buy the company, nor even let me partner with him. He sees himself as better than me and wants to compete with me. I'll show him what my company can do to him. He is shocked more when he finds out that the card game is still earning, and its profits have reached $6 million. How will I use all this money in just 3 months? The problem is that after all these profits, Yang, who gets a salary of $3,000 from me every month, is becoming richer than me, who earns $3,000 or $4,000 from the project every 90 days. They see news about a new technology that was invented. Yang says to him, we could think of a somewhat complex game that might appeal to players. He says, no, no, we have no experience in that matter. But he finds it an idea. A complex game means we will need many people to work on it, and many people mean many expenses, and maybe God will provide, and the game fails. So I will have paid a lot of money and lost. So he decides to hire a company to manage the project and hire new employees in one of the game companies named Burning Sky. This suspicious name. The manager's name is Joe. An employee named Helen enters and tells him, I will resign. I want to achieve my dreams, and unfortunately the company will stop. He and Young go to the company and meet its manager. The manager's name is Lawrence. He sees their appearances and says, we are a company for the wealthy. You might look for your request elsewhere. He says, and that's what I want, and I'll give you $400,000. Lawrence says, my dear, and the son of my dear, I agree. He says, I want you to find me assistants to design the game, and first, find me a secretary to organize appointments, and she should look good. So we benefit from the lots of money we're getting. He shows him an employee named Lulu. He says, she looks good, I mean her qualifications are good. I agree. As he is leaving, Helen sees an ad for the game Mirage Leader. He says to her, that game is garbage, don't waste your time on it. She says no, it's a nice game. It's enough that its owner wasn't interested in profits and all his concern was for the player's enjoyment. He leaves the place and Helen talks to Lawrence and says, I want a job, and my wish is to work for the person who made the game Mirage Leader. He says, see the one who was here a little while ago? He is the owner of the game, so she immediately runs to catch up with him, but she misses the opportunity. He is sitting in a cafe, and Lulu arrives and talks to him saying, you are very successful, and I love working with successful people. He says to her, I saw your CV, and I need you to give me advice on managing the company when I ask you. She says, and I agree, and we can start work from now. He says, but I'm not ready. I don't have an office or a place to start from. So they take him to rent a place for the company. He says to her, look, I want the most expensive thing. I love to pamper my employee. He rents a full floor with an area of 3,000 meters, and the rent for 1 month is $360,000. He says, but I wanted something more expensive. The problem for him is that the game Mirage Leader is still making money until now, so he must get rid of it somehow. He must get rid of it somehow. Indeed, he rents the place and buys desks, computers, a giant screen, and theater speakers. Like I told you, I'll pamper my employees. She gives him a list of requirements that must be met in every employee. He says, what are these conditions? These conditions will bring us excellent employees. I want the most failing employees in every field. Of course, Richie warns him, so against his will, he says to him, you must change your appearance before we start hiring people. So he buys the most expensive suit and the most expensive shoes available in the country. And thus, he managed to hire his assistant and also has his friend with him. But he thinks, I need one more person, and it's best if he's failing. So he goes to the laziest person he knew before him in college. He goes to a cyber cafe and finds him playing. The young man's name is Bill. He says to him, I want to hire you in my company, and gives him a handful of dinars. And also, we have the best computers in the company. Come finish your gaming at our place. Bill says, but I don't know how to make games. He says, that's what is required. I won't ask you for anything extra. Come play at my place. That's all. Bill agrees to the offer the next day. He meets a young man named Juan applying to the company and learns that he is a game designer. He asks him what salary he dreams of. He says, $2,000 would be good. He says, but life is expensive, son. I'll give you $4,000. After him, Helen enters, who came to apply to the company. He learns from Lulu that she was very failing in her previous job. So he says, and that's what is required. I hired you in the company. Work begins, and Juan notices something strange. Everyone in the company is idle and doesn't do anything. They drink tea and coffee and play on the computer, and Bill is one person who is playing to the extent that he finished the game. Stranger still, they don't see him in the company because he was sitting at home eating watermelon and can't find an idea for the new game. Then he watches an action movie, and an idea comes to him. He returns to the company and says to them, I know I was absent, but that's for a reason. When I disappear, it means I'm definitely planning to develop the company. Our next project is developing an action game from a first-person perspective. I am confident in you, and therefore I will appoint Juan as project manager, and Bill will be a supervisor, considering he is the king of games. But first, I'll give you some instructions. We must start the game with a tutorial for beginners that cannot be skipped, the thing I hated most in games. The story must be long and full of fight scenes. The most powerful weapon will be in the store for sale, and we'll set its price expensively. And we'll provide players with weak and rotten weapons. The game controls must be easy, so there's no difference between a pro and a beginner. He does the opposite of what happened in the previous game. Juan says to him, but like this, the game might fail. He says, that's your job. Follow the instructions I gave and design a game that pleases people. You have a full week to make an overall concept for the game. He returns to his office and celebrates that the game will definitely fail. But the two stay in the company after work, hours to bring out the best they have. Bill suggests focusing on the important elements of the game, like aiming and movement. The basic things are important. Look, we'll start the game in the ocean on an oil tanker, and the mission is to kill the mummies and zombies attacking the players. We'll make killing them easy, and we'll put a side character, a little girl, and it's best if she's mute so we don't incur extra costs. But she's mute, so what's the use of her? Oh, we found a solution. She will give them missions in sign language, and she is the one who guides them in the game. They inform him that they finished the game concept and ask him to come see it. He says it's not important. Start working, and I don't necessarily have to see it. So he starts with all the employees designing the game. He was monitoring the performance of the game Mirage Leader, which is still making him money until now. Yang visits him and says, all the employees in the company are working on the project to the extent that they exceed official work hours. He thinks to himself, what can I do to stop them? Oh yes, I can spend more money. So he says to Yang, I'll spend on a bonus for each employee. These people are working hard with us and must get a reward. The next day, Juan says to him, we want a name for the new game. He says, what game, man? Rest a bit. I made a restaurant for you inside the company. Go in, have breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And after that, we'll think about the game. And not only that, I'll open a gym for you in the company for your health. And a message arrives for each of them about the bonus he is giving them. So they are overwhelmed by the kindness and generosity he possesses, and therefore they decide that they will design the best game in history. He says to Bill, I want you to make me a list of all the game's requirements, and don't spare anything. Everything you want, request it. He says we might buy a server to hold the game files. He says from my eyes, buy 2 of them. But he thinks, then the game will be lightweight. So he says, no, let's postpone that a bit. We might buy them after releasing the game. At this time, Lee calls Joe, the manager of the company where Helen worked. He says to him, I must destroy him in his company. So I want you to make an offer to every employee in his company. He wants the company to turn into a ghost town. And in the company, all employees get a call at the same time. A month later, he is sitting in a lecture and gets a call from Yang saying, the Burning Sky Company is stealing our employees. He returns to the company and finds it empty. All the employees left me and went away. But they come out of the restaurant. We were eating, Lulu says to him. The Burning Sky Company tried to hire me, but we preferred to stay with you. You are the best manager we've ever met. Not only that, they finished the game and are entering the testing phase. They watched the trial version of the game, which they named Oil Tanker, and he was shocked. How could his team produce a game like this? He says, we still have a month to fix the mistakes in the game. He says, a disaster at this level, and there are mistakes. If they fix them, what will happen? He says to them, what do you think about going on a trip? Let's tour the world on a trip for a month. He wants to waste time so they don't fix the errors. Suddenly, Lulu enters with Lee's assistant. Huan says to him, be careful. This is the one who wanted to hire him. The assistant greets him and says, I've been wanting to see you for a long time. I work for a person I seek refuge with God from these shapes. I hope to work with a respectable man like you. The man revealed the whole matter. He thought the Burning Sky Company was fighting him, but he found out that Lee is the one unleashing the Burning Sky Company on him. He says, by God, an idea. How can Lee help destroy me? And in this way, I will fail. But of course, then he would fear the law. And also he refuses the assistant's request. He says to his employees, prepare yourselves. We will go on a visit to the Burning Sky Company. His goal is to show them the biggest game company, and when they see the level of games it produces, they will definitely feel despair. He and his team go to the company and meet manager Joe and the company employees. They meet each other and learn that he pays a bonus to the employee who stays beyond work hours. Not only that, we have a restaurant and we have a gym. Joe's employees look at him with looks of hatred. Did the plan fail? He goes out and talks about how his company is big and great, and that it produces the best games, especially the new game that will be released, which is a first-person action game. The most important point in the new game is the weapons, which will be more like real weapons. Also, the game will be free, but the strong weapons will cost money. Juan looks at the game and cringes from the game he is designing, but when he looks at him, he finds him confident in himself. He definitely has a plan for success, but in reality, he has no plan or anything. He is happy that this game is better than his game and that his game will fail. He is happy that this game is better than his game will fail. Joe calls Lee and tells him what happened. The man gets angry because he told them about the new game. Joe says, I did that to destroy their morale. So Lee says to him, you are underestimating the competitor, and that could destroy you. And in the company, all employees are working to the best of their ability to make the game succeed the game. That is indeed better than most games on the market. And they prepare a trial version, and Bill, of course, is the one testing it, and he finds it excellent and beyond expectations. At this time, he hears a report from Richie that he has 25 days left until the project ends, and he still has $360,000. So he tells Lulu, gather all the employees for me. I'll take them on a trip, and we'll go to the cinema and watch a movie. Suddenly, the movie cuts off, and he sees a recording of the employees. The employees have made a surprise for him and recorded a video celebrating the end of the game's development. He is terrified. If the game is released before Joe's game, it might succeed. He says to them, no, we won't release it now. Richie appears and says, stop right there. Since the game is finished, you must release it. The next day, they release the game and follow the result. Initially, the results are not the best. And that's because when Joe saw the game was released, he released his game at the same time. Joe's game swept the market from them. Not only that, he spent all his money and didn't leave anything for advertising and marketing the game. Bill says, the solution is that we give the game to professional players to try it so they can share the experience with the rest of the people. But the problem is that we have to pay them and he has no money left. So Juan and the others say, the game will succeed at any cost, even if we pay from our own pockets. Helen says, I know a player named King who might help us. Bill says, I know him. He's considered a legend in game tournaments. He sees the game from the outside. It looks like garbage and no ads were made for it. Also, the weapon in it is sold for $888. For that, I can rent an apartment, but it doesn't matter. Come on, let's try it. He enters the game and a girl appears asking for help. Mummies are attacking, and he finds a weapon in his hand. So he starts shooting the mummies, and then he realizes he must protect the girl. More monsters appear on the ship, so he keeps killing them. The game is smooth in control and doesn't require many skills. He continues shooting the monsters, but the weapon runs out. A mummy attacks and wounds him. The girl helps him and treats the wound, and also gives him a weapon to continue. What is this? A legendary game? And King was so impressed by it that he went to the company's headquarters to meet the game's designers and promises them that he will play it in a live stream and promote it to people. He was sitting in the lecture hall, happy that the game had failed, and thinks about treating the employees to lunch to get them out of the sadness and depression they are living in. But when he returns, he is shocked. All the employees are happy because the game has spread and everyone is talking about it. They celebrate in the middle of the company and he says, why did I succeed? Juan brings him a paper containing the reasons for the game's success, and he learns that King recommended it to people and talked about the ease of controlling the game and that its story is excellent. The problem is that these are the things he suggested. The problem is within himself. All his ideas are successful and please people. Even the very expensive weapon he put in the game, he managed to sell $400,000 worth of it, and all this in 2 days. It seems he will collect millions of dollars before the next task, so he panics more to spend the money he earned. Richie appears and says, you can do that, but there's a rule that to develop, you must add tools for players to buy. Buy? Meaning he will earn more? No, I won't do it. Okay, then maybe I give the employees a new bonus. Richie says that's against the law. You just gave them a bonus recently. He says, then fine, I'll raise their salaries. He says no. Also, you are basically giving them high salaries. In the evening, he calls Lulu and says, I need advice. They need advice. I want to use the company's money to meet my needs and the employees' needs, but there is someone who has set conditions for me that prevent me. She says, easy, put a fund in the salaries called Project Benefits Fund. This fund is spent in case the game succeeds. And the next day, she prepares the papers for him, according to which each employee will get a $3,500 coupon. And Richie, when reviewing the papers, found no problem with them. He takes the team and says to them, each one of you has $3,500. Spread out in the city and spend the money. And that's because there are 2 hours left and the deadline will end. He passes by each one of them. This one wants to buy a laptop, but is worried about its price. He says, buy, don't be afraid. You'll definitely need it to work from home. And one who just bought a phone a month ago. He says, your phone has become outdated. Buy a new one, it's better for you. He passes by Bill and finds he spent all the money. By God, the best employee I have in the company. After 2 hours, all the employees spent the money they took, but he still has a lot of money left and must spend it. He asks Lulu, can I spend company money? She says, yes, but to buy things that will benefit the company. So he goes and buys watches for $400,000. Watches are important, so we finish games on precise schedules. And finally, the time ends. Richie presents him with a report, and the surprise, the project lost $200,000. He managed to defeat the system the next day. He announces that Juan and Bill are the best employees in the company, and therefore they will not continue with us. There is a failing one named Minga. I'll make him manager of the next game. Everyone is surprised. How can you do that? He says, I see that Juan is a genius, so he will receive a reward of $1 million, and I will listen to him to start his new company. And he says to Bill, you will stay with me in the company. You will get a paid vacation for life. Sit at home and play, and I don't want to see your face in the company. I want the next game to fail at any cost. And the next task begins. And he gets $1 million and has a new deadline, which is 90 days to make a new game. He says to himself, 90 days is a lot. If they start now, they will make an excellent game. What if I don't start now? Maybe the employees will develop the oil tanker game. But Richie said that if they develop it, they must add items to the store. So he gathers with Ming and Lin, now they are the best employees in the company, and says to them, the next game, I will supervise it myself. Games waste people's time, and we must help solve the problem. So we will make a game in an old style, something like old GTA. The game will be 2D, and its idea is that the player plays as a game developer who has a company and supervises employees and designs new games. I think there's nothing more boring than we'll put many characters and each one has dialogue lines, and the actions of the side characters can affect the progress of the game to increase the chances of failure and the chances of boredom even more. Ming and Lin start recording the voices for the characters they added to the game. After a week, Bill returns to him. He looks like he hasn't showered for a year. He says to him, I want to return to work again. I've gotten used to working. He agrees, and as soon as Bill touches the mouse, he looks back to normal as if he had showered. But he gives him an order not to interfere in the new game. And Juan visits Bill and says, I'm free, still thinking about a new project. And Bill says, I'm free too because he prevented me from participating in the new game. So the two agree that they will develop the oil tanker game. Meng shows him the initial project for the new game, and he is impressed by it. It looks like a failing game and will serve the purpose. He says to Meng, the game we will release on April 1st. And I'll pamper you and make an advertisement with the famous YouTuber named Shaw. Lin is surprised. Why is he advertising with the YouTuber interested in failing games? There is a bad reputation for the new game. Shaw gets a message from the company that they want to cooperate with him, and then a call from Lin telling him about the game and that they want him to promote it and talk about it. And in return, he will get $100,000. Talk about the game. She gives him a paper with the words he will say. He says, won't I play the game to tell people my opinion? She says, I'll give you 10-second clips from the new game, and we'll raise the price to $200,000. He says, like this, my reputation will be ruined in the market. I'll say a game is good without trying it. She says, if you refuse, you'll get $50,000. So he turns into a Super Saiyan and agrees to the offer. My reputation is ruined anyway. The most important thing is the money. YouTubers do this actually. He sees the trial version of the game and finds it garbage. How can I recommend this? But he gets a message from the bank transferring $550,000. So he sits and makes a video for people. This game is the best game ever produced. The world of games will change after this game is released. On the last day of March, Lin returns to the company and sees Bill and Juan developing the oil tanker game. They say to her, don't tell him anything. So she promises them that she won't tell him and says, tomorrow we will release the new game. And on the 1st of April, Shaw releases the promotional video where he praises the game and licks the game owner's feet. It's very clear that it's a paid promotional ad, and he's a liar. Everyone saw it as a disastrous ad except for him, who saw it as an excellent ad. The rest of the channels and players talked about Shaw, who definitely took money from the new game, which they named Game Developer, by the way. And therefore they started a campaign to boycott the game. He says to the employees, don't worry, everything is going as I expected. And the first day passed, and the game achieved catastrophic performance. So Juan arrives at the company with a journalist who will do an interview with every employee who supervised the new game. But the journalist takes clips and photos to say that he is a failing manager and fires employees to say. It turns out the journalist works for Lee, and her goal is to destroy his reputation. Lin finds out what happened and goes to warn her that if she continues what she is doing, she will lead her to ruin. And we learn about Lin that she is the daughter of the biggest businessman in China. So what keeps you busy as an employee in a small company? The journalist gets scared and does a serious interview. She goes to meet him and do an interview with him. And he said in the interview that his goal in making the new games is to lose money. Telling the truth, although people will say he is lying, and Shaw has nightmares about his ruined reputation and the people cursing him because of the video he made. So he decides to play the game and make a video about its truth. And the game begins with a young man starting a new company from a computer in his bedroom, a rags to riches story that everyone loves. The character has many choices: design a card game, a war game, or even start a YouTube channel. Even the helper characters sometimes give him advice, and when he follows them, he loses the game. A game with challenge and new ideas. Shaw kept playing it for days, seeing himself as the game's character representing him in all his decisions. And all the gameplay was recorded and uploaded on his channel, and the views of the videos increased. At the same time, the journalist is publishing the interview she did with the company employees. The interview done by the journalist and the videos recorded by Shaw, the two together turned the situation 180 degrees, and the game started to spread. 4 games in a row succeeded, and he decided to commit suicide, almost. But he gets a call from Lee saying, "You are buying the press and renting YouTubers to promote your games. Therefore, from today, you are my enemy." He rejoices. Finally, someone will destroy me and my games will fail. Suddenly, the place darkens and Richie appears saying, "You have a new task, which is, we don't know what the task is because we will see the new task in the new season. The new season will not be released, but first tell us what you think of the anime. In my opinion, the anime is cute and its idea is new. Write to us your opinion in the comments and do not forget to like and subscribe. We will see you in a new video. Bye."